We never had a costume change, but the only time that I ever had to drop a deuce at the Double Down.
Welcome to Room 6, the channel dedicated to the local Las Vegas music scene and the people that make it, including these guys and me. I'm Josh, and today my guests just released a new album, The Devil You Know. They actually released it last year, but couldn't get, thanks to COVID, couldn't put it out there, thanks COVID. But a review for that is coming soon, link up here. And make sure you subscribe so that you get notified when that happens. You know how to do that down there. They formed in 2012, the first CD released in 2013. They're veterans of the local and international scene. Their music has been played in countries such as Europe and Japan, and they have played in Japan. Their sound has been described as a wild mesh of garage rock with blues rock, punk energy, and dirty rock and roll. And I would also even throw in a little bit of surf rock. Fair?
Yes.
Definitely. Definitely.
Please welcome to the channel, the Psyatics.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Right.
I'm missing a drink.
Wait
a minute.
You do need a drink.
Wait a minute. There we go. That's better. Welcome to the channel, guys.
Wow.
Welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
All right. So, first off, I was very fortunate to catch them at their CD release party at the Double Down just recently. And a review for that show is coming up. Next show is October 29th.
Yes, so far.
So far, yeah.
We're kind of just still playing it by ear, seeing what happens.
Right.
It's a little crazy out there still.
You're doing the few and far between show thing, but it's worth the wait. It really is. How long have you been doing music individually?
You want to go?
I've been a huge fan of music forever, but I've only been playing even locally since '95. Was in a bunch of cover bands, played in Picadillos, Yellow Bellies, Psyatics. I'm in a band with my wife and Jack on violin, and a band called Unwieldies right now too.
That's you guys.
Yep.
All right. All right. How about you?
I've been playing just about all my life. I'm from the East Coast, so I've been playing classical music, played with multiple orchestras, played with multiple bands, mostly cover bands, back east. When I came here to Vegas, Rob found me, and we kind of been doing it ever since. And really, I focus a lot of this on the Psyatics and the Unwieldies. I don't really play it other places, but I've been doing it for 30 plus years now. I don't know what I have to say.
Right on. What sort of... Let me back up. How long have the two of you been together as the Psyatics? I know that, the new boy's not here. Mark's not here.
Mark's not here, and no.
Mark's not here yet. Ron is our new...
Oh, wow. My information is old. I apologize. So then Ron is not here.
Ron is not here.
But Ron's the real new boy.
And Rich is another new add to that. But we've been doing it for 10 years now.
Well, who was at Double Down?
Rich Coffee on guitar, and Ron Hootie on drums.
You were a four-piece that night.
We were a four-piece, yeah. We used
to
be a
right.
three-piece.
See, I was going so much off of the album.
And
then I'm like, well, one guy's not there, so it's a three-piece.
Actually, depending on where you are, both guitar players were in the audience, so it's like...
that explains it.
And it looked like a two-piece most of the time.
Right.
We were in the audience. No, it's four-piece now. We added the fourth piece right before we recorded this album.
Right, but the two of you have been Psyatics how long?
Yep, 10 years.
10 years. Awesome. Let's talk musical influences, and whichever one wants to go first.
Oh my God, that's it.
We're gonna
welcome down the rabbit hole.
I'm just gonna start. We're starting very simple. What is the earliest musical influence you can remember that made you go, "I want to do that"?
Play music?
Yeah.
You know what? I played in jazz and whatever for starting in 6th grade saxophone. My grandparents were big in the union out here, played clarinet and sang mostly torch songs, and were big in the hotel circuit out here, but I never really considered playing until 94, 95. It was boredom that really pushed me. I love being a music fan. I love watching music, but never really got into it until '95 is when I started going full force.
Right on. How about you?
So, let's see. I've always played guitar from a very early age. 6 probably is when I think started guitar. But my first show was Journey. That wasn't when I was like that. I would have to say the watershed moment was Iron Maiden Power Slave Tour. I went to that show and I saw the theatrics and I saw everything that Bruce was doing. And I fell in love with the whole thing.
I saw that tour here.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've never had a chance to see them on live, and they're one of the bands that you're just like, it's worth the money.
It's definitely worth the money. Yeah. I mean, I did love Iron Maiden back then. I love them still, but only the old stuff. You know, everything up to Power Slave. After that, I started getting into. I went down the rabbit hole into very, very, very fringe bands.
Right.
I think that's where Rob and I kind of connect.
Yeah. There's this little bit of part of me that I wish I had the time and the money to just go into Zia Records and just sit there and be like, take all this. This
right.
looks good. Just, boom.
That's right.
Just stick my hands out and walk down the aisles and put it all in a cart. But
He does do that though.
yeah,
He has a wall of CDs that.
I just recently got to the point where my record player works again. So I have a stack up there, old records that I want to go through and really just have that moment of, now is when I listen. I'm just going to listen and get influenced. And unfortunately, doing reviews is not the same as really just chilling out, man.
Just chilling out.
You know, I mean, by the way, I love your record, or album, really. It's
Thank
a
you.
CD. I love it. It touches a lot of nostalgia points for me, and we'll get into that. But I had a good time reviewing it. I really did.
I am.
And I have some questions for you about that. But before we get to that, I want to talk show memories. And what we're looking for here is, what is your favorite show memory performing? It could be something like everything went wrong, somebody went in jail, everything went right, whatever.
Oh, you go first.
Let me go first?
Please.
I have a few of them.
Okay.
I would say, we were just talking about this on the way to this interview. There's this place in California. We went to California, kind of toured around. It was in the early days of the Psyatics, and we ended up being invited to play at a place called Bob's Bang Shack, which was...
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Bob's Bang Shack. I don't think it's available anymore. I don't think they're doing it anymore, but it was in the middle of the desert. It was sort of a rundown house with a big yard, and it had tents that everyone would go in and hotbox, and they would have punk bands on this makeshift stage, and it was dusty, and it was hot, and it was...
Smelly?
Smelly, but it was one of the funnest shows I've ever played with the Psyatics, because it just was that visceral kind of organic thing that ended up being such a great show to be at.
Awesome.
It really was. I think that's one of my favorites.
Your own little Burning Man.
It was kind of small Burning Man, because they were intense. The hotboxing, they'd come out and smoke would pour out.
Nice. Was it past tense, present tense? What was it?
It was about 8 years ago. Was it 8 years
It was
ago?
quite a while ago. It was the first album.
It was the first album.
Yeah.
How about you?
I don't know about specifically. I really, really loved Japan, and we were actually slated to go back to Japan in April when shit got closed down, and that CD release was going to be in March, and that closed down I think 2 weeks before our show, and then we were supposed to go to Japan after that for the second time. I mean, that was amazing, and not to say that there wasn't a particular thing, but as a fan of music, I absolutely love that I got to a point where I could play with people that as a teenager I love. We got to open up for Peter Murphy. We played with Lemmy from Motorhead.
Really?
We played with
Wow.
there was a lot of shows that we did that I can totally geek out over, and it's not just one memory. I mean it might not be us playing. It might just be watching him do sound check and then talking with him afterwards. You know, that kind of thing like that.
Right.
I can geek out over all the time.
Or the Pizza Underground. That was one of the best shows ever.
Yeah, we did get with Macaulay Culkin.
Wow.
Where
Now,
he does
was this before or after he kind of like corrected
During?
his course?
During?
Well, you can say, so
during.
he had a Velvet Underground cover band that sang songs about pizza.
And
So
they beat
you
on
could see
pizza boxes.
that's probably during.
I'm sorry. Wait, Macaulay Culkin had a band?
They see me rolling, they hating.
Yeah.
I missed that
Called the
somehow.
Pizza Underground.
A lot of people miss it. Well, people that didn't miss it
All
don't
they did
miss
was
it now.
beat on pizza boxes the whole.
So he was going through a phase. He was going through a little bit there. Right on. From favorite show memory, let's talk favorite Vegas venue. Whether you're seeing or performing, what's your favorite venue?
Now, I still absolutely
That's
love
hands
playing the Double Down.
Hands down.
Hands down. But there's a couple reasons for that. First, it's really dirty. I mean, I'm not talking about the place, but just the sound. Like bands that I love from no wave to early, like noise rock and AMRAP stuff, like that, the crappy PA and everything just ties into all that. That makes it so fun. I still I have fond memories of like the Aladdin out here was a great place to see shows. The Huntridge, a little boomy, but it was just a fun place to see shows. But that is just comfortable for me.
Right on.
They give us a slot. They tell us when to play. They pay you before you play. Whereas in half of the venues that I go to, you got to chase it down afterwards.
It's 30 days later. You get a check.
That's right. Oh, they give it to you right there.
Mm.
LVCS was a great place for us to play. It was boomy. It was a little unusual to be in some of those shows. But like Rob was saying, some of those early shows were at LVCS, and LVCS was some of the fond memories.
I do remember LBCS fondly, both watching and playing there. For those of you that don't remember, don't know, LBCS stands for Las Vegas Country Saloon, and eventually it stopped being country and a saloon, and it really, suddenly it was like punk and metal and hip-hop shows, and they were just doing anything they could to survive, because it was a very, very big room that only sounded good when it was filled.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember standing right next to the sound booth, saying to the guy, "Is there anything you can do about the reverb?" And he's like, "That's just the room, man. It's dry. My reverb's at 0. It's but it was cool because number one, you're on Fremont Street Experience. You're in you're downtown. You're in your tour. You never know who's going to be popping in, but also it felt like a proper venue.
Yeah.
For us, and they would book local bands like mine. It felt very much like, wow, we're kind of almost big time because you're not on the Vegas Strip, but you're really in the middle of what tourists come to Vegas for. And so I liked LVCS a lot, except for the reverb.
The reverb was terrible.
Yep.
It really was. In some of those early days of Psyatics, we would go on first or second, and nobody would be in the room, and the Psyatics would just reverberate off each other.
The way they managed it there too was terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
It's closed down now, so we can speak ill of the dead.
I did some gigs with Neon Reverb, and I brought. I would do like 3-day festivals out there, and I bring out people like Double Mix 3 or something like that, and put out flyers, and you'd plaster them all over Fremont Street, and they would tear them all down immediately because they had, you can't do advertisements, you can't put bills on there. I'm advertising for right upstairs. People don't even know there's a venue up here, and you couldn't bring it to their attention because they would not allow you to.
It was very weird to go to a show and there's a line waiting to go to the escalator to stand out in front of the door, and meanwhile right over here is the Brass Lounge, which walk in, no problem. Did many an open mic at Brass Lounge. Right. But yeah, and there's still nothing up there, I think.
No, there's none there. No, the best one that I would say close to it that I like is Backstage Bar and Billiards. That's a great. I think that venue is great if they could. That's okay. I say Backstage Bar and Billiards would be a great venue if they could get focused into the local scene. I'm not sure they're so focused yet.
Triple B has a lot of pluses. But I just did a review of it, actually, where I went in, saw Dirt Halo, among other bands, and the last time I had been there was to see Dirt Halo and some other bands before quarantine. Yeah. And I walked, I was like, what's it going to be like? Like, this is I'm checking in on the venues. What's still open? What's it like? Has anything really changed? And I watched it, I was like, everything is exactly the same.
Right.
And then I'm overhearing things like, oh, it's line check? There's no sound check. Okay, and I'm like, yep, everything's exactly the same. They've taken 40% of your merch. Everything's exactly the same. So Triple B, you've got a few things that you need to work on, I think, But then again, they are in prime real estate trying to hold on.
Yeah, but trying to hold on, is in my opinion, is that if you had a good amalgamation of local and national acts, I think that's where you win. I don't think that they have that concoction worked out yet.
Downtown always has that struggle. I mean, the old bunkhouse was a lot of fun, but it was far enough away to where there was free parking around that area. Like any place close, like Backstage is great if you have a national act and you get some locals on the act. That's great, but a local show makes it difficult, like to have to pay $10 for parking, $10 for beer, $5 to $10 for a ticket. So like, why don't they just go see you next week for free at this place?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So wait, you're telling me like the Fremont Street Experience stages, it's free to go see, or I can pay for parking over here. I mean, you're still parking to go to Fremont Street Experience unless you're in one of the casinos.
Yeah.
And even then, pay to park in a casino.
And the last time at Backstage, I mean, when we were doing LBCS, parking was like $20 for all night.
It was hard.
That's hard for a local band to make that.
A new local band.
Yeah.
When I went to the Triple B for that show that I was talking about, I was like, all day, $13. I'm gonna be here for like 4 or 5 hours. I might as well just do the all day, and I'm glad I did. But in the Triple B parking lot, they've blacked out all the space numbers. You pay, but you actually put in your license plate number.
Oh, really?
And I had to ask somebody because I couldn't read signs apparently. But I'm looking around like, how did they know? How do they know? And I kind of like that. But moving on, we're not here to talk about that. Rob Bell.
See, yes,
You're for Rob or Robert?
Rob's great.
Okay, Roberto. Your songs showcase your wordsmithing. Do you ever worry the message is lost in the noise at live shows, such as Double Down with its dirtiness?
No. Actually, and I go back and forth about this a lot. Is it sometimes I wish that I would, and I think I could do this in the future. Is that I kind of want to be maybe buried more in the mix. Like I don't mind that they don't quite understand what I'm saying, and there's a lot of music that I've loved over the years that lyrics are misinterpreted or they're. Right. I love writing stories, and none of the people that come to see us really know exactly what they're about, or maybe they're mishearing some things, and that's cool. It doesn't bother me. They're mostly for me anyways. Right.
But on your record, at least on this one, on the album, I was like, oh, I can hear him. I can understand what he's saying. And then you did the amazing thing on Bandcamp of putting your lyrics. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's the only thing I got.
I saw on Bandcamp the lyrics. Yes, please, click. Yeah. And I was like, now I can properly review this thing, because I have had people give me things to review where it's like, and you're like, how can I review this?
So you know what? And I know he was going to say this. No, it's a point of pride thing. Is that this year, because of COVID, we shut down for so long. I went through all my stuff and I picked out my favorite 125 songs that I wrote, and I printed and I published a book.
I saw something about that.
And it took me that long to actually sit down and go, holy shit, I have that many songs, and enough to where I'm proud enough about them that I could put them together and actually have short stories through it, And
you're a wordy little bastard.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. What inspired the use of the word hypnagogic?
I like 10-cent words. That
is a college word.
I like ones that take a lot. All right. I like punk. I'm not a huge punk fan, but I like Greg's stuff. Bad Religion. He's very wordy and I don't know. I dig the dialogue. I like the stories. I want them to be interesting. I want people to go, what is that? And maybe look it up if they care.
Well, as a singer-songwriter myself, so I always took pride in my lyrics and not just repeating the same thing over and over and over for just because, I need to fill some time, or whatever. I really tried to write lyrics for the song, not the song to the lyrics a lot of times.
Yeah.
And when I saw the Hypnagogic Jerk title, I was like, oh, okay. And then I read the lyrics, and you said, I have a Hypnagogic Jerk.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I missed that. I missed that when I was listening. I thought you were saying, I'm a Hypnagogic Jerk. And I'm like, what does that mean? How can you be a physical reaction?
I have that all the time. I have very bad insomnia. I wake up in fits and starts. I used to have night terrors, and the wife is fucking tired of all that shit. I constantly I get up in the middle of the night and it's like, who is that? And she'll be like, fuck you, go back to bed. Like, just somebody on the end of our bed.
Take a Ritalin, guard. Awesome. You've written from everything, on this album at least, you've written about everything from the woes of serial killers to religious-themed hypocrisy to covers of blues legends Sam and Dave. Where does the songwriting process start for you? Is it like you get a snippet of a song in your head or a line of lyric that comes to you and you're like, I can build on that?
It's totally all over the place. Can I borrow that for a second?
Yeah, please.
So,
You only wrote the songs.
Yeah.
You know what?
So each one of them is different.
Not necessarily on this album, but there are a couple where I would go, Jack would have an instrumental, and it was like maybe 2 minutes long. Mm-hmm. And I'd go, okay, I'm going to challenge myself to not change a single thing. I'm going to fit lyrics in this song exactly as it is. It doesn't really have a chorus. It doesn't, I mean, the structure is very odd. Okay, I'll work it that way. And then sometimes I'll get struck by, like, a crown's no cure for a headache. I really just love the line. I read it someplace and went, okay, I just got the idea right in my head just off of that line.
That's right.
So I went, all right, that's really easy. I could see that now. A king who's bitching about how fucking difficult it is to be a king, and they don't know what a pain in the ass it is. Yeah.
Well, the thing I liked about it is we've heard the expression, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And I thought, I've never heard that phrase, but I know exactly what you mean by it. And as soon as the song started, I was like, yes, that's exactly what I thought. It's not, we're not talking about a king. The king is talking about being a king.
Yeah.
So, or a ruler, whatever. What was your favorite class at Scumbag College?
Give us another one, Bambi, you bottom boil. I love that show. I love that show.
Yeah, I did a little deep dive on it.
Wasn't prepared for that, actually.
Right?
And I skipped a lot.
I love that show. Yeah, The Young Ones is one of my absolute favorites. I still, to this day, watch every episode, every single one of them. I know them back and forth. I could probably script them out by just saying that.
I saw that and it rang a bell, and then I started digging a little bit deeper. And I was like, oh, okay, Young Ones. That explains it. But I was like, I can't remember the last time I saw an episode. I can't remember any of the actors' names.
Oh, Aid and Rick were great, and I actually when we played that, I was actually in the Yellow Bellies, but when I played that gig with Lemmy and got to tell him, I'm like, it's so funny, but after so many generations, that's how my kids know you, not from your music. You were in the Young Ones.
Oh my God! and that episode, yes,
like the favorite.
My longtime memory of the Young Ones and of that episode is him going like this to sing.
That episode was what I just quoted Bambi.
In Bambi.
In Bambi.
I never understood why Lemmy made it. I never understood why he made it harder on himself by pointing the mic like this and singing like that. It's like, does it not adjust, dude?
Maybe it's opening his throat.
Opening his throat.
Ooh.
It was very weird. So when he was doing sound check, the whole time I'm like, he's got a gorgeous bass. Holy fuck. And he just play and go,
like he's clearing his throat.
deeper. I want it to sound like I'm singing through 10 tons of wet concrete. Deeper. Until he got it down to where, and that was his sound check. He wouldn't sing anything.
Can you make it as crappy as possible? As dirty as possible. I remember Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters was talking about they went into a studio after Motorhead, and everything was to the right on the slider. Like, everything was turned up. Yeah. Just everything. And I'm like, as an engineer, oh God, that's got to be a pain. So like mix. One last question for you before we move over to Jagabar. How do you tune a skillet?
I
That
don't. That's actually
that was a good picture, man.
It's actually the funnest thing. I started with water box lids, but they were made out of pig iron, and after about 3 shows, I'd hit it and it would shatter.
Which was great theater.
Oh yeah, it is. But I played barefoot.
Oh shit!
Oh, that's fine. And then I started working with the skillet, but that was so fucking heavy that that's contributed to my back problems.
Tell that to your chiropractor. Well, I beat on a skillet for years. What? All right, Mr. Jack Ball. You seem to have a love affair with stringed instruments. How many found their way onto this album?
This one in particular, just 3. 3 guitars, no violin. I do have a love affair with them. However, my big love affair is with Gretsch and Heritage guitars. So I think that this one has all Gretsch guitars, all 3 of them.
I can see that. I can hear that. It's definitely a very full body sound.
Yeah, definitely.
But
my sound is very distinct, but I actually been working on my sound since the Psyatics started. So this has been a long journey to the sound that I love and have come to, actually.
Well, there's just so many layers to your instrumentation. I really was like, is there strings in there? Because I can't tell. There was no break. There was no like some little bit of orchestra part where you broke a song down. It was just like, here come the strings. So
no.
We leave that to Aerosmith.
Yes. To quote Freddie Mercury, this would be the operatic section.
That's right.
So, all right. So you said you're from the East Coast. You're Pittsburgh, right?
I am from Pittsburgh. Yeah.
That's all right.
New York. I used to go to New York a lot, to the Bowery. We would go up, and my friends and I. My friends back east played for a band called Iron Cross back in the day. They were a very, very heavy metal band at the time, and we would all jump in the van and we would go up to the Bowery and sleep in the van and stuff like that. That's where my scene comes from. So I would go along the Bowery. I saw the CBGBs, although it was on the downside of the CBGBs. Yeah. I still saw the CBGBs and all of the shit bars that were in the Bowery at the time.
Who's your favorite Jagoff?
That is a Pittsburgh term. Who's my favorite Jagoff?
And I was like, I gotta ask.
I would have to say Mark. No,
who's the guy who's not in the band? Nice.
Yeah, right. No. Mark is actually a good guy. I don't know if I have a favorite Jagoff, but that is pretty funny.
Oh, that's okay. I'm glad not.
Jagoff is like an asshole term for in Pittsburgh.
It can be my best friend or it can be my hated enemy.
It can be either way. Yeah, Jagoff, and they always say Jagoff.
Yes, it's one word.
Yeah, it's usually when you're driving. Jagoff.
Oh God. Well, it's like people in front of you are morons. People behind you are idiots. Yes,
that's right. It's usually both of them is just Jagoff.
Jagoff. How involved were you with the music scene in Pittsburgh before you moved away from there?
Fairly involved, but the Pittsburgh scene that I was more classical in Pittsburgh. I did play for cover bands, but cover bands in Pittsburgh are, barroom blues bands, and I hate barroom blues. So I mean, it has its place. I know people love it, but it's just not right at my speed. So, and I did not want to be that guitarist that sat there and played, You
don't want to get the dead eye, the 10,000 mile stare.
Oh my God. Yeah. I couldn't take guitarists that wanted to play lick after lick. A lot of my solos are anti-lick.
I noticed like the first 3 or 4 songs have no solo.
Some of them, Rob will ask me, do you want to do a solo? I'll say, absolutely not. Let's go on.
No, your solos fit. They fit.
And Rich has his solos. Yeah, Rich has his solos in this album, and I love Rich's solos.
He's on saxophone.
But that's
I was going to talk about that.
No, Rich is on the guitar.
Rich is the other guitar.
Didn't Rich Coffey do saxophone?
No.
Rich is on guitar.
That's Gene.
Rich has a great blues feel.
I don't know
solo.
what I read then.
Rich has a great blues feel when he solos. My solo style is just, I don't like being in that pigeonhole when it comes to guitar. I really either want to write a solo or play noise. I love it. I love that. Yeah. I love that about the solos that Rob actually, I got to give Rob credit. He actually forced me into that noise solo thing, but when I do write a solo, like Here to Suffer, that is a written solo, like musically
Right.
thought about before I put it down on tape.
Now, is it you or Rich doing those wah swells?
That's Rich.
Okay.
Rich loves the wah.
See,
yeah.
I've got to rewrite my review of this album because
that's
I was
Rich.
misinformed by the internet. The internet lied to me. I thought Rich played sax. I thought you were a three-piece. I don't know what I was thinking. And
We were a three-piece for a long time until this album. Actually, the fourth album, Rich played like on maybe two songs.
well, your website only has 3 of you, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's where I got That's where I got led astray.
I have not updated the website. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna mention that to you off camera, but
Well, we were going to update the website. We're actually going to update the website within a week because of COVID.
Hey, you do something though that most bands that come on the show don't. You list who's on the band, even if it's wrong. You tag yourselves in photos. It is really hard to research a band when nothing.
Yeah, right.
All you see is pictures, and there's no names, there's no nothing, and you're like, how am I supposed to do my deep dive on you? How am I supposed to find out? But it's very frustrating.
But Rich loved the swell. So I will say this about the wah. In the early days of the Psyatics, I started using the wah, and it just didn't fit back then.
Mm.
And I became anti-wah. There's one song that I do the swells on called Pigs that we did on the Squid Hat 77 compilation album.
Yeah, as a cover.
And I
of
did
a
do the
cover
swells.
of
I did the swells,
Pink
all
Floyd
the noise.
Animals
I will
album.
only use the wah if it's noise oriented in the Psyatics because I love how we do noise.
Noise.
We use noise as an instrument.
You do.
We really do.
You do. Which was, again, why I was so happy I could hear your lyrics.
Yeah.
Because I was like, there's a lot going on underneath his lyrics. And if I'm sitting there, and I tried like dissecting it, I'm like, I give up. I'll just go with whatever I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's the whole Tom Waits feel, like that noise
Yes.
feel.
Yes, very much
That's where
so.
it comes from. You know, him and I both love Tom Waits. So.
Right on. How's the bread baking going?
Thanks,
Kobe.
I have gotten to like master status on bread baking because of COVID.
My wife went through a phase where like practically every weekend she was just like, look at this loaf. She was so proud and she was turning out some really good breads and muffins and things. But lately, life we're backing off, which is fine.
Yeah, because you can only eat so much bread.
All right, now then, I have an answer for you to your question, sir. Hairs on your nose as you get older. Hairs on the top of your nose. It's genetics or hormones. Just so you know.
It's probably genetics.
I'll let you know.
But still, I gotta ask God why.
Did you have a question
No,
about?
You did.
I
He posted it.
I
Yeah.
posted, dear God, hairs on your nose. Why?
I honestly was curious. I was like, because I am often curious. It's like, why certain body parts still have hair when evolutionarily there's no benefit.
I mean, I know every guy out there does this. They'll sit there watching TV, doing their nose, film for nose hair.
Well, now with masks especially, it's just so many times I'm reaching into my mask for that one spot.
That
It's
one
annoying.
spot, right?
All right. So since it's just the two of you, move on to the lightning round. Wanted to talk about gear. Now, we don't have a drummer here, so we're not going to take an hour for gear.
Right.
Because they're gear whores. But whoever wants to start, what are you currently rocking on stage? Feel free to get as granular as you want.
I got a
I'll get you more whiskey if you want.
Mark bass amp, please.
Absolutely.
I got a Mark bass amp. I have an American P bass and Music Man.
Music Man what?
It's a Music Man.
It's
Ernie Ball Music Man bass.
it's a bass. It's just I don't know. It's an obnoxious coral orangey pink.
And make it the thump.
Yeah, I'm not a gear guy. I like the feel, and I'm slowly. It's been 10 years, so I was actually slowly starting to work on my sound just recently,
Yeah.
and I'm picking up some new pedals so that I can try to find tone. But for right now, it was just hold a deep low end, and Jack does all the sonic. I don't want the
That's
opposite
true.
of nuance.
You can't compete with what he does sonically, so you're just like, I'll just be the bottom note.
Well, plus I picked up the bass to play in the Psyatics. So before that, I was playing mandolin with the Yeller Bellies in the picadillos, and then before that, I didn't play anything. I just sang. So I picked up the bass so that I could just do something different. So I was just trying to keep it. So in the early years, which is really fun and cool for where we were at, I was always pushing myself to play something past what I could actually hold on to live. And we would play gigs, and some of them were great, and some of them I'd fall apart at, and afterwards people would come up and they're like, you guys are really fucking good. Have you thought about getting a bass player? And I'm like, fuck you. I'm gonna learn how to play this motherfucker. And now I know it took me a while, but now I feel really comfortable, and I still challenge myself to play not only slightly challenging stuff. I never took lessons, so I don't really play typically, but I also want to challenge myself to play against what I'm singing. Mm-hmm. And then force myself to learn to play against myself, which is it's just fun. It's challenging. It's like working out while we're playing, and I gotta concentrate on it. The same thing with the lyrics and everything's super wordy, and but fuck it, as long as I still have a memory, I'm pushing it. I'm gonna push it as far as I can go.
There you go, man. I had the same kind of thing where a sound engineer actually recently passed away, Lacey Ferguson. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I had her basically say, your tone sucks. And I was like, and this was a 3-piece band. I was front man, so I was the guitar. I was the only guitar.
What band was this?
The Suspense. You never heard of us. An indie rock band. And it was named after that moment where a song breaks for a second, right before the wave crashes again. I love that moment. I love when a band is so tight and just suddenly stop. Boom. I love that. But the whole point of the band was we're just here trying to write good music. Yeah. That was it.
That's what we do.
Hits and misses, peaks and valleys. But after the third, fourth time it broke up, iteration. But I remember Lacey saying that, and that made me, I really sat down and thought, what is my tone? Because I would just be like, okay, now it's distortion time.
The great search for tone, right?
Yeah, well, I never cared that much until I was the only guitarist.
Yeah.
Because before I was only the rhythm guitarist.
Yeah.
And I generally was playing acoustic, so I didn't care. But singing-wise, if you told me, your singing sucks, then I would have had a problem with you. Because I studied voice, and I really, really cared about my singing. But the guitar, I was just like, I happen to play guitar. I happen to play some bass. I happen to play some drums.
Yeah.
So I'm working on not being that guy that's just, I'm really trying to round myself out, a lot like you. I'm really trying to be like, I want to challenge myself with this. I'm currently challenging myself with being a better drummer. Yeah. Currently, though, the challenge is, I designed some merch that says, make music, not excuses, and that's the challenge. Because my excuse to myself is, I've got to edit. I currently have 6 things waiting for me to either record them, or write them, or edit them.
Not enough time.
And
time in a day,
there's time. It's just, you come home from a day job, and you be there as the husband and the daddy, and then everybody's asleep, and you're like, well, I could work, I could do stuff, or I could watch TV.
Exactly.
And
you let the TV wash over.
Damn DVR. So it's really a tough balance. This is the plight of the YouTuber. It's a really tough balance of trying to keep everybody happy, including myself, and also trying to challenge and grow myself. And because the most growth you ever see is when you're alone and down. Alone and lonely and depressed, and that's the most growth you can get if you are willing to do it. And there's the diva.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's been like half an hour at least.
Well, she's finally let out of the room upstairs where she was. Oh no, she was here before. She met you guys.
Yeah, she was meandering around.
She's like, they're still here. They're killing him. Axe murderers. So, sorry about that, everybody.
Sorry.
You've met Chloe, the diva. So. Gear for you.
My rig. Okay.
And feel free, again, you can go all the way down to like
that is a rabbit hole to go down. Okay, so I do. It's so I use. Let's start with the guitars. I use Gretsch guitars, but each one of them are Falcons. I have essentially tore them apart and put them back together to find the tone that I want. I think tone is relative. So when I was looking for the tone for the Psyatics, it's a relative thing, isn't it? And so it has to be visceral.
You're the only one that's going to know.
Organic, but yes. But if you don't go for that, in my opinion, if you don't go for the tone for the application, people know. They don't realize they know, but they know.
Fans will be like,
yeah, exactly.
There's something. Yeah.
But the I don't do the typical rockabilly Gretsch setup. My setup is completely, the wire harness is different. I took the even down to the resistors in the guitar and changed it for the exact sound that I wanted. Down to the pickups. The pickups that I use are all TV Jones, and they're all Powertrons in the actual guitar itself. It's all rewired, and I'm going to give a shameless plug here, but Gil Rosado is one of the best guitar techs in Vegas I have ever experienced.
I've heard that many times.
If you have a guitar, or a bass, go to Gil.
And you can subscribe to his page by linking.
Yes. But he helped me get that guitar sound that I want, even the setup. The amplifier is actually quite interesting. I bought every amplifier imaginable for this band. I went to Vox, to Marshall, to Fender. I went everything that I could. Mm-hmm. Finally, I built my own. The actual amp that I have is a Bluesbreaker model voiced like a Vox. So it's kind of an amalgamation of two amps into one. So I just built the amp. I went from top to bottom, picked out every component in the amp. I had a few people help me out get the amp built. Okay. I did all the soldering, the hands-on stuff. I did all of the wiring. There was a couple voicing things that I needed help with, but for the most part, I did it from top to bottom. The whole amplifier is me. I had to do it because I could not find something out there that I loved. And everything that was out there was, you could modify it, but the modifications were more expensive than just building the amp.
And that's a really good, important piece of advice for new musicians. That was a lot of words.
Yeah, right.
But don't settle. If you have a particular thing you really, really want to hear coming out, don't settle until you find it. You may not be able to afford a particular thing, right, but there's a lot of options out there, especially nowadays.
Tons of options.
Yeah. Never mind recording with all the mods and everything. You can sound like any amp you want in the studio.
Yes.
In recording software. But live, there's a lot of options out there. Maybe you make some change to your guitar as opposed to the amp. Or pedal
board.
Yeah.
Pedal board I use is Friedman.
Right.
Which I love because they have the buffer in it. But people make fun of my pedal board, but I use every single one of them.
Was it you that had the pedals stored in your guitar case?
I did at one time. So that's Japan. I would store a small Japan.
I saw pictures. The guitar was wrapped up lovingly,
right. In a big...
and in the case was a trough of all the pedals.
That's right. That's
and I was like,
my flight case.
Genius.
That's my flight case. That's my flight case. There's a big silk bag. Silk is great for flight because it keeps the moisture out.
Oh.
So you for $40 and $1.50 in library fees, you could find this silk bag that you put your guitar in.
Sorry, library fees?
Yeah, it's a movie reference. But
okay. Sorry.
But you could buy this silk bag, put it into the flight case. It's safe. It's effective. It's from a violin. So playing the violin, I learned that.
Wait, it fits your Gretsch?
Yeah. It's huge. I got this enormous silk bag.
It'd be a lot of rapid.
Nope, it's a silk bag. It's a bag you put it in. You could find it online.
All right.
So that keeps the moisture in and out. We use it for violin, so I applied that to the guitar. I have this great flight case. I forget who the case was made by. They're from California. And then I got this small board that I just can stick right down in the flight case.
Oh, that's a whole board you slid in.
Yes, slip right down. You pull the board out.
So the board is literally the depth of the pedals.
Yeah. Yep.
Because mine is your traditional.
Nope.
I have a briefcase to carry, and you open it up and you pull this thing out. And I always wondered, well, yes, you can have all these pedals, but I only use really.
But that was for Japan, though. That was for just.
Okay.
Let me be clear. That was only I wanted to get down to Japan, even though we didn't go. I wanted to condense my time. In Japan is a different world when you play out. You go in there and you are on and off only with your guitar, chord, and pedal board. That's it. You
So-
literally walk on stage with your guitar, your cord, and your pedal board. You put it down, you plug into the amp that's on stage, and you start playing.
Oh, really?
Every
Yes.
bar had the
Every
exact
bar.
same setup.
Every single bar.
Same.
So no sound guy?
Same
or?
amp.
There are sound guys.
Yeah.
There are full-blown sound
Let me
guys.
rephrase it. I'm sorry. They're ready to go.
Yep.
Like, okay.
And every band that comes in and out, it's actually a brilliant scenario. Every band that comes in and out has the exact same setup. So every band in Japan knows exactly what they're getting into to play that gig.
So there must be minimal downtime between bands.
Maybe a minute.
They're all right on.
They're spot on.
Well, Japanese as a culture is we're dedicated to perfection.
That's right.
We're really trying to perfect it, and I think unfortunately America could learn a
We
bit.
could learn from that. I gotta be honest with you. So we would, in Japan, when we toured Japan, we would have to meet at the venue at 2:00 to go over our entire set list, and we would have to literally turn in the set list,
in stage plot and the whole
and
thing.
stage plot and the whole thing, and we would go over it, and all the bands would meet. Every single band that played that night would have this kind of like
That's
get
amazing.
together kind of
Yeah,
thing.
thank
earlier
each
in the
other
day.
for
Thank
sharing
each other
the
for
music.
sharing their music. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. We could learn from that because here in America, what I noticed is like a band will come in, play, and leave, and not be around for the other bands.
Oh yeah, very fractured and very
It's
very much.
fractured, yeah.
I mean, I get like I have to work at 5 in the morning or something. I get that,
yeah.
but somebody has to stay and represent.
And mostly that's what we try to do. Rob and I and the entire band try to go to gigs and try
It
to be a
seems more
face.
competitive than just enjoying the music or whatever.
That's exactly right. It's a
We're all
community.
jockeying for a better spot for the $50 paycheck.
Or I wouldn't even say competitive so much as just siloed, like self-insert, like it's my little world. I'm worried about me, kind of thing, or I'm worried about me. My band is worried about us as a band thing, and we're all gonna die. Try not to be dicks.
right.
Try not to make it worse.
I mean, this is a community.
Yeah.
If bands would just be a community, you could.
Well, that's what I
shrink
really love about the punk, ska, and whatever the hell you guys do. That scene, I really love that feeling. Like, first of all, people stay for the whole show. At least that's my experience so far. Is that I'm seeing a band, 4 bands, 5 bands show. People are staying at least enough where it looks full.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't look less full than it did at the beginning, which was really cool. I interviewed Suburban Resistance, and they were so cool. They let the out of town guests, Glitter Trash from LA, come. They said, "Hey, why don't you go third? We'll headline. That way you get more people because you got merch to sell.
We do that too.
You're on the road." And I was like, "That's really." I had never heard of that in the indie rock or the metal or the I'd never heard of that before. It's just like, this is your time, and so kudos to you guys.
And people are cool. I mean, the last gig that we played, Ron lent the Swanks our drum kit. I lent my bass amp to Murphy to play
right.
bass in, and then Sector 7G she had to borrow my bass
I
to
actually
play.
had a bar strap.
Yeah.
And when we play Double Down, I mean, that's a credit to the bar, because we play Double Down, I'll get there at 9 o'clock, and it's like putting in full 8 hours of work. I leave about 3 in the morning once all the bands are done.
It's a community feel.
Yeah.
I wish more bands would be more community oriented here.
Yeah. When I went to the Double Down to see you guys, among others, and also review the bar, and I found a whiskey to review, I got there 6:30. I mean, I had a good time that night.
Whoa.
But yeah, I really was there early enough to see like one guy gaming, and then to see the progression of the night, and I was really impressed because you never know when, like, you've been to a show where you walk in and there's nobody, and then a half hour later it's full, and vice versa.
Yeah.
That's the real problem about a place like LVCS. You could have tourists that are there or playing a casino. And you're like, I have no idea how the night's going to go.
That's
I
right.
hate that. At Double Down, it seems like you're pretty much guaranteed a full room every night.
11 o'clock, that's when they start rolling in. The only thing
I noticed that.
The only thing that was really different is that was our first gig in 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we had no idea what it's like now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we knew how it was before then, but and I was pretty happy with the turnout. But yeah, of course, I didn't expect it to be like it was
Right.
before then. But
I was blown away by the diversity of the crowd at Double Down. And like you said, just every so often I'd pop my head outside and I'd be like, there's a new group of people that showed up. And they're hanging outside because, Double Down's packed. It's a small place. But I just was like, there's somebody in a suit. There's somebody in a ska suit. There's punks with leather and studs and patches. There's college kids. I don't know. There's me.
That's right.
And it was very, very cool to be like, everybody here is here because they love Double Down. They love the vibe. They love the scene. They love the music. But also, yeah, like...
So I will say it's definitely the CBGBs of the West. I would say...
Yes.
I definitely would say.
I never got to go to CBGB's.
It's definitely the CBGBs.
It's the only place that I think in town that you'd be comfortable enough to see like businessmen and cross-dressers and things like all in the bar. Nobody cares.
That's
right.
It's all good.
Yeah, I would say the only difference between the Double Down and CBGBs had a bona fide sound.
Right.
Yeah, sound man.
Well, see, I think Double Down, it's changed over the years from what I understand. But I also thought it was a much older venue than it is.
No, yes, that's right.
It opened in like
27 years old,
25,
28 years.
No, I mean I thought this thing was like one of the oldest bars in Vegas, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And I asked about it. I was like, really? Because
Yeah.
it seems very cemented. Like you couldn't imagine it anywhere else. You couldn't imagine it with any other like. Suddenly, it's a yuppie bar. You couldn't imagine it.
That place is great, from the owner down to the bartenders to the patrons. The place is just a great.
You gotta love a place where on the wall above the stage it says, "Shut up and drink."
That's right. That's right.
Oh, the only thing that might be better is shut up and play, but I don't know. But all right, we're almost done. You survived.
Yay!
So let's pretend we're talking to new musicians. I like to do this at the end of interviews. New musicians, fans of yours maybe, that are watching, someone who wants to, do this. What is one piece of advice you wish someone had given you? And please don't say change your strengths.
Follow your dream, but have another career.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do this for a living. Just I have a job that allows me to afford to be a musician.
Yes, same. Like I have a job that allows me to do this.
Yeah.
That's right, definitely. So I got a piece of advice in early days of my orchestra career. I won't say who because they are very famous, but they said to me, "Don't worry about it. People are full of shit." And that what meant was that when you're performing, that most people really don't realize whether you're messing up or not. They're just there for having fun. I wish I'd had that. I think that every musician needs to understand that. Whenever they're up on stage and whenever they're doing their thing, people are full of shit. They just want to have fun.
Yep.
They're not sitting there judging you.
I've always tried to perform with fun because the audience knows if you're having fun, they don't care if you. We're going to do this in drop D. They don't care.
They don't care.
As long as it isn't like a train wreck audibly, and even if it is, if you have fun with it, that's jazz, baby.
That's right. If you have 3 guitars up there and you need to change guitar every 5 songs, it's not fun for the audience.
It's not fun for anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all guitarists are egocentric by nature, but you don't need it. You need to just have fun. People are full shit. They're not going to be listening to your guitar tone.
It's the same as, like, I get if you're, say, a pop star and you need to have wardrobe changes throughout your thing, you've crafted a show, fine. But if you're playing the Double Down and you're, like, suddenly, for whatever reason, you need to take off your jacket. I saw Adam Ant at Hard Rock Cafe on the Strip, the little one, the upstairs. Dude was, I don't even know how old he was, 40s, 50s, 2.5 hour show. He came out in a Napoleon hat and a trench coat, except for the very last song. He wore it the whole time, and they just boom, 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 and I was just like, "That's why you're the G, man," because it was amazing, and it showed the difference between him and like some newer artists who are just like, "I'm going to talk for 30 minutes about this next song." So
that's one of the things I hate. Actually, I absolutely hate
that. If it's a singer-songwriter showcase and you're up there with your acoustic, and the whole point is to talk about why you wrote this, I get that. But I love the fact you guys were pretty much here's the next song. Here we go. You know,
We don't talk
We
about
never had
songs.
we never had a costume change, but the only time that I ever had to drop a deuce at the Devil Down was during the song. And I just said, "Play noise," and I got my bass and I ran.
Things are about to transpire.
I couldn't wait till it was over, and then I ran back, and it was great.
You should have just taken the bass with you. I know you wouldn't reach.
Yeah,
That's where wireless
I
comes
don't
in.
have a wireless.
I
And
know.
actually, that would have made it a lot more difficult for me to stealth run. And
Yeah, it was fun.
Have a wireless little headphone mic. And
but I should figure that out so I could do like the Seinfeld thing after it was over.
I mean, if you watch the Psyatics videos or watch us play, we just want to have fun. This is all about fun. You know, once it becomes unfun.
And
Yeah.
taking as many earballs out as we can.
Exactly.
Earballs?
Earballs,
Yeah,
yeah,
earballs,
that's
yeah.
things inside your ear that rattle around. You don't have that? It sounds like cicadas all the time to me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. We have a video too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So we're not gonna have them perform live up in room 6. Instead, we're gonna show you some videos from them. It is amazing. Definitely click the link down below so you can get their music for yourself, and definitely follow them online so you can find out where they're playing. It is worth it. I want to thank the Psyatics for coming on. You guys have been amazing. In the meantime, remember to be amazing, and we'll see you next time on room 6. Say bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
story of three boys. They had a plan to do something, but they didn't stop to think what the consequences of that plan might be.